Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dakota Fundraising News Podcast. Today is Wednesday, April 16th. Quick housekeeping, just one episode this week as we are off for the Good Friday holiday this week. I'm hoping to get down to the beach, enjoy some time with family. You have anything for the long weekend?
Nice. Yes, Sunday dinner with the family, so it should be good. Started doing that like a couple years ago, so looking forward to it.
Cool. Let's just kick right into it today.
Yeah, before we do, though, about a month from now, May 19th, just as a reminder to any of our listeners, Dakota Allocator Conference, Chelsea Piers, New York City, we'll both be there. Slate of speakers. We've ran through them in previous podcasts, but just to highlight a couple of them. Chris Burrows from Saturn Partners, Lawrence Calcano, iCapital, Mark Bijel, Corio Advisors, Bob Scherer from Greystone, John Tassone of FFT Wealth Management, a couple others here that I'll just list off as well. Valentine Whitaker of Epic Funds and Eric Sutherland of PIMCO and Chris Krein of Artisan Partners. I think I got everybody there. I don't know. Are we working on anyone else at the moment?
We are. More to come.
Awesome. If you're not registered, you can do so. A general access expires May 1st. We do have late access as well, but tune in before the price goes up, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast.
Cool. Now that the house cleaning items are out the way, job changes. Pat, why don't you just lead this off, I guess?
Yeah, happy to. So we'll start here with a LPL change. So if you recall, we mentioned on the podcast last year in October, Atria Wealth Solutions was brought in as part of LPL. Two leaders, Doug Ketterer and Eugene Elias, were brought on and stayed on with LPL. They will both be leaving LPL. Ketterer will be leaving in April. Elias will be leaving in June. Hopefully, it's a smooth transition out as they continue to, close their acquisition, that LPL that is. Moving right along to some institutional ones we want to call out. First, Jeff Smith has left the Smithsonian Institute. He has joined the Cornell University Endowment as a senior investment officer. And then Cesar Roman has left Mercer Investment Consulting. He has joined Centura Wealth Advisors as an alternatives analyst. He covered alts at Mercer. And then finally, in Dallas, Cheryl Alston is going to be stepping down. Cheryl was the executive director of Dallas ERF, which was a $4 billion, $3.6 billion pension for 20 years. David Etheridge has been named the acting executive director.
Nice. Let's move into RIAs now. Osaic, independent wealth management firm, they've announced that NoxNumis, a $450 million wealth management firm out in Wichita, Kansas, has joined their advisor network there. So the NoxNumis team, hopefully I have that right, they're led by John Toothaker and Rob Gable, and then an additional 15 members that provide fiduciary services. They target high net worth entrepreneurs, retirees, families, and people on Medicare. This news comes shortly after a separate $450 million Kansas-based team actually left Osaic for LPL, so replacing that team in some sense. Moving along here, Noah Doyle and Charles Princiato, they have launched SoundRidge Private Wealth, joining Wells Fargo's FiNet in New York City. Doyle and Princiato have around 31 years of combined experience, so wealth of knowledge there, previously working over at Janney as Battery Park Financial Partners, where they manage around $380 million. And then the last one here, really quickly, veteran advisor Michael Brees and his team, where they manage around $875 million in client assets. They have left JPMorgan to join Morgan Stanley Private Wealth Management. Brees started out back in 2007 at JPMorgan, eventually becoming managing director in 2022. So, as previously stated, veteran in the industry there. Let's move it to our institutional coverage though, Pat. One consultant update, I'll kick this off, and then why don't you get into searches and investments for us. But just a quick update from the San Diego County Employees Retirement Association, $17 billion plan. They have approved rehiring Aon as their general investment consultant. So they've been working with Aon for a little bit now. They work with Alburn as a specialist investment consultant. For the general investment consultant, they also considered RVK and Veris for the search. Ultimately going to stick with Aon there, maintaining that relationship.
Cool. Yeah, I'll jump right into searches. Congrats, Aon, on the big win there. City of New Orleans Municipal Employees Retirement System has issued an international equity RFP. They're using Mariner as their consultant. The deadline is May 5th, so you can fill that out right after you sign up for the Dakota Allocator podcast. Emerging managers will be considered as well. Jumping over to the West Coast, Oregon Public Employees Retirement Fund. They use Makita and Aon. We were just talking about Aon as their consultants. They're in the Portland area. They've announced some commitment plans. So they have a real assets commitment pacing plan targeting $500 million to $1 billion in new commitments, which will be between 3 and 5 funds. The consultant contract also is up for renewal. So Axia ends December of 2025. They plan to issue an RFP in May to make a decision to either renew or move on from Axia by October. On the real estate side, again, we're still on Oregon Public Employees. They got a lot going on. On the real estate side, they've reviewed their real estate annual review. They're going to look to make 3 to 6 commitments of about $750 million total, probably on the 6 commitments at $100 million each side, give or take, obviously. They're going to be monitoring their liquidity levers across really all asset classes as they look to reinvest dividends to grow their alternatives exposure over traditional assets, and continuing to engage with separate account managers to align assets with long-term goals, which is quite exciting. And then finally, Alameda County Employees Retirement System. They use NEPC. They're still on the West Coast, San Francisco. They've announced their commitment plan for real assets, which is made up of $120 million to infrastructure between 3 and 4 managers, and then another $80 million to natural resources between 2 and 3 managers.
Nice. I can keep this going. A couple other pacing plans. This one out of Ventura County Employees Retirement Association, so staying on the West Coast here. Close to a $9 billion plan. They use NEPC. For 2025, they're going to be targeting $225 million to private equity. That's going to be split out between 10 to 12 commitments between venture capital, growth, buyouts, and special situations funds. They have an 18% target allocation to private equity. This is coming out of a recent March meeting. At the same meeting, they disclosed 2 different private equity commitments, so related to their commitment pacing plan here. $13 million going to the GTCR Strategic Growth Fund 2, and then Pamlico Capital Fund 6 receiving a $25 million allocation. I'll keep this going here. City of Jacksonville Police and Fire Retirement Plan, $2.5 billion plan. They use RVK. They also made a recent allocation, $20 million to private credit with the Kennedy Lewis Capital Partners Fund 4. And then just an update on a search that we previously called out. They're looking to issue a large cap value manager search sometime soon. I believe it was supposed to be issued in March, but we should see that coming out sometime this month in April. It's according to recent meeting minutes. And then to close out this searches segment here, Mendocino County Employees Retirement Association, going back to the West Coast, based in Sacramento, close to a $800 million plan. They use Callan as their consultant. They issued a non-U.S. small cap manager search a little bit ago and have approved selecting Brandy's as their small cap, international small cap manager. AQR and Causeway also considered for the search. So congrats to Brandy's on that one. Cool. We dripped in a couple investments there. Just wanted to call out one other investment coming out of the South Carolina retirement system, close to a $50 billion plan. So pretty big plan here. They use Veris as their general consultant and Alburn as a specialty consultant. They made a $100 million allocation to HG Saturn 4A. HG Saturn 4A targets platforms with enterprise values greater than $1.5 billion. Revenues greater than $250 million and EBITDA greater than $50 million. The fund focuses on European-based transatlantic businesses, many of which have a global footprint and customer base, established specific software and services tech industry groupings, including tax and accounting, European payroll, legal and regulatory compliance, healthcare, IT, and insurance. A mouthful there, but just wanted to use this as a segue into our fundraising updates. But before we do so, we did call out other investors for HG Saturn 4A previously as well, including Illinois Municipal and New Jersey Division of Investment, 2 also pretty large plans. HG Saturn 3A, believe we probably talked about that fund a bunch on last year's podcast, but they've closed with $11 billion for that fund close. Investors in that fund include Board of Decos, CalPERS, Connecticut Retirement, Texas ERS, a bunch of other pretty large institutions and public plans. You can find the rest of those in Dakota Marketplace. So nice to see HG in the market with Fund 4, attracting some pretty investors of note there too.
Great. Cool. I'll wrap us up with fundraising updates. Let's just get right into it. So first, Morgan Stanley Investment Management, probably heard of them, has closed their third co-invest fund at their hard cap, which is roughly $2.3 billion. That was oversubscribed. And again, that is part of the North Haven Private Equity Co-Investment Opportunities Fund underneath of the Morgan Stanley Investment Management umbrella. We'll call out they did receive a $100 million commitment from the Wyoming State Loan Investment Board, which we have sourced in Dakota Marketplace. So go and check that out. Jumping to the international side here for a sec, Singapore-based ABC Impact has completed fundraising for their second fund. They've raised over $600 million for ABC Impact Fund 2. Really successful sophomore raise here. Number of commitments we want to call out: Temasek, Asian Development Bank, and Maple Tree Investments, as well as an unnamed sovereign wealth fund in Southeast Asia, a family office from the U.S., and a number of ultra-high net worth individuals participated. Speaking of ultra-high net worth individuals, Peter Thiel, venture capital founder, sort of a famous thought leader and writer, and now kind of a political talking head too, has raised $4.5 billion for the third Founders Fund. That is his venture arm. $4.5 billion for their third fund is insane. That's Founder Fund Growth 3. Yeah, there were 270 investors that participated in that fund. The previous fund had 249. So excited to see how Peter Thiel and team put that money to work. Okay, that wraps it up for us today. One very exciting thing we want to call out today is the 100th episode of the Fundraising News Podcast.
That's crazy. Our, amazing production host, Roberto Yambo, behind the camera, just reminded us that crazy that we've been here for 100 episodes, couple guests, hosts in the mix, Matt Marino. I just want to call him out too. But thank you, Roberto. Thank you to the studio team here at Dakota. And thanks to all of our listeners.
Yeah. And don't forget to check out the book, The Dakota Way book on Amazon. Go check it out. You probably have heard of it before. It's great, full of sales practices, everything that we practice here at Dakota and everything that leading asset managers are practicing around the globe. Thanks everyone for listening in to our 100th. We look forward to hearing from you on 101, 102, 200, and 500, and 900, and 10,000. So we'll talk soon.
This episode is brought to you by Dakota Marketplace. Are you tired of constantly jumping between multiple databases and channels to find the right investment opportunities? Introducing Dakota Marketplace, the comprehensive institutional and intermediate database built by fundraisers for fundraisers. With Dakota Marketplace, you'll have access to all channels and asset classes in one place, saving you time and streamlining your fundraising process. Say goodbye to the frustration of searching through multiple databases, websites, Form ADVs, and say hello to a seamless and efficient fundraising experience. Sign up now and see the difference Dakota Marketplace can make for you. Visit dakota.com/Dakota-Marketplace today.